Hey guys, I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida, and this is my beloved Nikon D750, and I finally had to replace it. If you're curious to know what I replaced it with and why, stick around and find out. I bought the D750 when it was introduced back in 2014, and it's seen its share of duty. The D750 was and still is a current and amazing camera, more so for still pictures than it is for video. Though it is capable video-wise, you don't really get any of the modern autofocus features. For example, in video, there's no face tracking, but for a 5.5-year-old camera, it's still surprisingly modern and capable. The sensor gets a rating of 93 at DxO mark, which still has it in the top 25. Now, I know a lot of photographers out there love to pan DxO pretty hard. I get it. But if your camera gets a high score, then suddenly DxO mark is a credible source. It also has dual card slots, which is critical to me as a wedding photographer, knowing that I have that redundancy on board. Yes, I know card failure is rare, but it still happens, and that's a chance that I personally prefer not to take. This thing has fantastic dynamic range. Autofocus, though most of the points are relatively tight in the center of the frame, autofocus is still snappy and reliable and accurate. One of the best attributes of the D750 to me is this grip and the way this feels in the hand. It's like this body was custom made for my hands. That sounds unintentionally suggestive. It's very comfortable. The back screen, well, it articulates, but it doesn't flip out, so it's less than ideal for vlogging. That, and of course, again, the aforementioned lack of reliable continuous autofocus in video. Battery life is excellent. It's also only a 24 megapixel sensor, which for me, workflow-wise, is just about ideal. In the busy season, I do a lot of outsourcing of my real estate work, and I can't imagine uploading files from cameras with 35 to 50 megapixel sensors. I take a lot of exposures in one room, and I can't imagine uploading 12 to 20 images per room in a 15-room shoot, 3 or 4 houses a day. That becomes a massive amount of data. And uploading that to my vendors, particularly the ones overseas, can take all night. Not so much for me, but for them. The larger the files, I only shoot in RAW, the longer the upload time. 24 megapixels has proven to be ideal for my specific workflow requirements. Now on the downside, build quality is good, but it's definitely more prosumer. The max shutter speed caps out at only 1/4000th of a second. That's not a huge deal, but to me, the biggest issue with the D750 is the buffer, especially if you shoot weddings or sports. It caps out after 6 or 7 shots and slows to a crawl even with fast SD cards, and you can seriously risk missing an important shot while waiting on the buffer. So please budget your shots wisely. But where the D750 really found a home for me, pun intended, is in my real estate photography work, a genre where the camera doesn't need to be fast, it just needs to be a reliable, steady performer that allows me to pull shadows out of my images without a ton of noise, and it does that even better than I found with some of the newer models in the marketplace. For example, I've worked with Sonys, Olympuses, Fujis, Canons, Panasonics in my real estate work. I've tried them all, and they all do a pretty good job, but I keep coming back to the D750. It's literally become an extension of my business and a workhorse of a camera. I just love it. It's 2020, and because of my current state of my D750, I found myself at a crossroads. For starters, my D750 has 635,239 clicks. The shutter was replaced once for the light leak and grease spots on the sensor problem that they had early on. Might have been replaced one other time too, but honestly, I don't remember. However, now, today, it's in dire need of some repairs. For starters, the hot shoe has become loose, and the flash will fire inconsistently, or sometimes it'll flash while I'm walking from room to room without me actually touching the shutter button. The lens mount has become loose, and it won't always register the lens's aperture setting, sometimes reading f0. A lot of the rubberized exterior here is bubbling up and falling off. The eye cup has disappeared, but that seems to happen with all my cameras. It's not that it's in an unusable state, but it's definitely become a struggle to use at times, particularly with the flash and with the mount. It's almost become unworkable. I wanted to send it to Nikon for repair, but because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic, they're not doing any repairs right now, so I was kind of stuck. Because though I have lots of backups, all my cameras are high megapixel cameras except for my D4 and for my A7 Mark III. But I found that with its dated back screen and the fact that it doesn't tilt or flip, the D4 is workable, but it's just not a pleasurable nor or an efficient experience for me in my real estate work. The A7 Mark III, on the other hand, is about the closest camera that I have that could in fact effectively replace my D750. But I only have the Sigma 14mm f1.8, which is an awesome lens, but sometimes need the versatility of a zoom. I have the Nikon 14-24, so I could either buy a lens for my A7 III, or I could get another Nikon camera, or I could go in a totally different direction altogether. The bottom line was, I was in need of a replacement. As you're probably aware, especially if you spend a lot of time watching YouTubers like me talk about camera equipment, you know there are a lot of options out there. For example, I love Micro Four Thirds, and the new OMD EM1 Mark III looks promising, but I kind of feel like Micro Four Thirds has hit a plateau, and shadow recovery for my professional real estate work on a Micro Four Thirds camera just isn't as good as a full frame sensor. Now don't get me wrong, it's gotten a lot better, but even at base ISO, if I have to raise the shadows, Micro Four Thirds just won't cut it. Will a client notice? Probably not, but I notice. That, and the only wide angle lens that I have right now for Micro Four Thirds is the Laowa 7.5mm f2. A great lens for the money, but it too lacks the versatility that I need. I already own the GH5, but it's kind of the same issue. Fuji has come out with some great cameras as well, especially lately. I thought about the X-T4 or the X Pro 3. I can't consider their medium format cameras because their high megapixel counts would do a number on my post-processing, never mind the pricing. I could get the 10-24 from Fuji or the 8-16. Both are great lenses, but the 8-16 would bust the budget, and honestly, battery life on the Fuji cameras just pales when compared to the D750. One other option that I considered was the brand new Canon RF 15-35L for my EOS R, which I've come to like a lot as a camera, but as great as the 15-35 is, it's still $2,300 new, and though its performance is superlative, that's a little bit more money than I want or need to spend while we're all under a quarantine. That of course leads us to the most obvious option, the brand new Nikon D780, and though it has improved video capability, the stills quality is only supposed to be just a little bit better than the D750s, and at $2,300 I wasn't all that jazzed to pay that kind of money for something that wasn't going to give me like a really noticeable improvement in image quality. So what did I do? I reached out to one of my longtime photography buddies. This guy literally owns a warehouse of camera equipment. He brings the idea of GAS, also known as gear acquisition syndrome, to a whole new level. He'll buy something, use it for a few weeks, and then he'll just put it away and buy something else. His collection of cameras and lenses is impressive, and almost everything is meticulously taken care of and in like new condition. So I made the call. Hey Dan, by any chance are you selling cameras? I already knew he was. And in his typical jovial response, he says, "You know I do. What you need." "Do you have a used D750? "Yep, I sure do," he says. So I ask, "How much?" And he says, "You know me. It's in like new condition. Probably haven't shot with it in a couple of years. Make me an offer." So I say, well, the best I can find online right now used in like new condition is $850. He says, "I have the grip. I'll tell you what, camera and grip for $900. My response? Done. Here it is, a like new condition Nikon D750 with just a hair over 3,000 clicks on it, complete with a grip and a really right stuff base plate. Deal of the century. This should keep me going in real estate photography for at least the next 2 years, probably more. And really, it's a testament to how great of a camera the D750 really is, and it's also proof that you don't always need the latest and greatest gear to have a successful career in real estate photography. Oh, and while I was there, my buddy Dan insisted that I borrow some Micro Four Thirds gear of his for reviews, cause he says, you're kind of behind in your Micro Four Thirds reviews. Fair enough, it's true. So I took some of the gear, and now you need to be on the lookout for some new reviews. Lastly, what to do with my existing Nikon D750? Well, I decided to wait until Nikon gets back online, and I'm going to send it in for repair and keep it as a backup, or give it to one of my associate photographers who'll come on board as my real estate photography business expands. So in the end, I replaced my beloved D750 with another D750. I'm Darren Miles with Darren Miles Photography, and I'm based here in beautiful, sunny Southwest Florida. If you like videos like this, please give me a like, or better yet, subscribe. And until the next time, happy shooting.